Hey gang, this is Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man 131, Descent, the third installment of a community project devoted to Kraven's Last Hunt, organized by Howler Mouse and Tim Morant. I'm 64-page special. Now folks, the first thing we have to consider is the overall title of this storyline. It's called Fearful Symmetry, Kraven's Last Hunt. Fearful Symmetry isn't just a reference to the William Blake poem The Tiger. It alludes to the fearful voices in symmetrical balance which paralyze action. These voices are the guilt-inducing criticisms that come from the superego and the vile, perverse instincts that come from the id. Peter's been paralyzed by guilt, the guilt of letting criminals die and friends die, and by the fear of losing the ones he's loved. But he's also paralyzed by a paralyzing dart. But since Peter's in his grave, Mary Jane has to be torn between these two drives. She goes to father figure Robbie Robertson to ask for help, but she's paralyzed by the thoughts of Peter's death and fears of exposing his life as Spider-Man. She represents the ego, which must negotiate between the id and superego. Now, what character represents this lusting, consuming, eatable id? Is it Robbie Robertson? No, it's Vermin. If you've seen Vermin in previous appearances, you know him. If you saw him in Marvel Team Up 128, you know him as a freaky jerk-off who controls rats. Here he's changed into a childless, gluttonous, sewer-dwelling cannibal. In eatable fashion, he licks the face of a cop because it reminds him of his mother. Also, he hides underground, an appropriate spot for the id, because he fears castration. Spider-Man and Captain America beat and/or feminized him in his last appearance. It's funny that Vermin keeps thinking Cap's name is Captain Flag. What's an alternate meaning to the word flag? It's to lose vigor, to lose excitement, to droop, wink wink. He hides from Captain Boner Killer and Spider-Man so they won't cut off his wang. Now, who represents the superego? Well, with his all-knowing critical view and severe judgments, Kraven is the superego, but he wants to know the power of the id. He presumes Spider-Man is an inhuman creature, and he wants to know that part of himself so he becomes a merciless, animalistic Spider-Man. Kraven knows he has to match Vermin's perversity, but to rile Vermin, he has to act like a castrating father figure. Oh, so this dick-slicing knife is all part of that father figure persona. He begins. This is so much harder than it looks. He begins the descent of the title, Descent into the Underworld, Descent into Madness. The word descent is also about the originating from ancestors. Kraven is his parents' son, and it's during his id-inspired ferocity his thoughts go to his parents. His thoughts go to his dishonored or feminized father, his sainted or sexually untouchable mother. And it's right here that you see the fearful symmetry. Two aggressive animals growling at each other. Now, later in the storyline, knowing this ferocity strengthens Kraven's abilities. Later in the storyline, knowing this ferocity strengthens Kraven's critical abilities. But instead of turning them outward, he turns his critical abilities and a rifle on himself. But I don't want to spoil anything. So, if you haven't already, watch part 1 of this series by Tim Morant, and part 2 by Wednesday Serial, and watch the next part by the Hoary Hosts of Hogarth. Links to all those are in the description. I'm never going to do this again. I'm never going to bother making another video. Thank you.